Welcome to After Hours, where stories come alive after dark. I'm Vaughn, 6 nights, and the story just crossed a continent. I want to take a moment, because some of you have been in these comments saying things that hit different when you read them at 2 in the morning, and I read every single one. So tonight, before we go to Nairobi, a few words for the ones who've been writing since day one. You know who you are. You've been putting theories in those comments, connecting dots, questioning characters, trusting nobody. Good. Keep that energy, because tonight, Amara's gonna need it. Last night, she broke into a data facility in London. She found her brother's name on a kill order. She downloaded evidence that could bring down Nexus Group. But the files are encrypted, locked behind biometric security. A cipher that isn't a code. It's a person. And somewhere in Nairobi, there's a dead man who isn't dead. A journalist who was supposed to be eliminated 3 years ago. A survivor. If she can find him, maybe he can tell her how to crack the cipher. How to get close enough to a Nexus executive to steal their biometric key. But Nairobi isn't safe. Simon Cross is on the move. And Amara is running out of time. This is The Signal, Episode 6. The Cipher. Previously on The Signal, Amara Okafor infiltrated a Nexus data facility in London. Meridian Secure Archives, a building that stored secrets the way vaults store gold. She had help. David Okoro, a night security supervisor who risked everything for a promise. His mother in a Lagos nursing home. An immigration lawyer who could bring her to London. Inside the server room, Amara downloaded 12 gigabytes of encrypted files, client manifests, operation logs, the infrastructure of a killing machine, but one folder was in plain text. The Nairobi Protocol. August 2019. 5 journalists targeted. 5 operations. 5 resolutions. Target number 4. Okafor. E-journalist. Investigation. Pollution cover-up. Resolution terminate. Method. Vehicle accident. Her brother. Emeka, filed away like a receipt. But the protocol mentioned something else. 5 targets. 4 confirmed eliminated. 1 listed as unresolved. A Kenyan investigative reporter named Samuel Githongo, targeted for elimination. But his file had an asterisk. A note in the margin that read, subject relocated prior to operation. Status, presumed dead, case closed. Presumed dead, not confirmed. If Githongo survived, he might know something. He might have seen something. He was investigating the same mining company that got Emeka killed. And the cipher. The encryption on the main archive was biometric, embedded in the physical data of Nexus executives. Palm prints, retinal scans, possibly even genetic markers. To crack it, Amara needs to get close to a Nexus executive, close enough to clone their biometrics without them knowing. She has to go to Nairobi, to find a ghost, to find the key. And Eleanor Vance has just ordered Simon Cross back to London with full authorization. The hunt is on. 2 days after the Meridian break-in. 2 days of silence. 2 days of staring at an encrypted drive that held the truth but wouldn't give it up. Amara sat in a cramped bedsit in Bermondsey, South London, the kind of place that rented by the week and didn't ask questions. The portable drive sat on the desk in front of her. 12 gigabytes. 1,000 secrets she couldn't read. She had spent the last 48 hours trying to crack the encryption on her own, running every algorithm she knew. Brute force attacks, dictionary sweeps, frequency analysis. Nothing. The encryption wasn't mathematical. It was biological. Every attempt to bypass it triggered a lockout protocol that froze the files for 6 hours. Yuki had warned her.
Stop hitting it head on. You're not going to brute force a biometric cipher? That's like trying to pick a lock by kicking down the building. The cipher needs a living key, a specific person's biometric data. Without it, those files stay locked forever.
A living key. Amara stared at the list of names from the Nairobi Protocol. 5 targets, 4 eliminated. 1 question mark. Samuel Githongo. She'd searched for him. Every database she could access. Social media. Public records. News archives. Nothing since August 2019. The man had vanished. Not the way Nexus made people vanish. The other way. The way you vanished when you were good at it. When you chose to disappear.
Yuki, I need to get to Nairobi. Off the grid. No flights, no passport stamps, nothing that connects Catherine to Kenya. The response came 6 minutes later.
I have a contact. Freight logistics company. They move cargo through a hub in Amsterdam, then onto Jomo Kenyatta. I can get you on a shipment. It's not comfortable, but it's invisible.
How long?
Amsterdam leg leaves tomorrow night from Tilbury Docks, Essex. Then 14 hours to Nairobi with a refueling stop in Cairo. You'll be on the ground by Friday morning.
Book it.
Already done. The manifest lists you as a quality assurance inspector for a pharmaceutical company. Here's your credentials. Memorize them.
Amara studied the documents Yuki had fabricated. A corporate ID, a letter of authorization, an itinerary that would hold up under casual inspection but dissolve under scrutiny. It would have to be enough. She packed light. The drive. A laptop. 2 changes of clothes. Cash. 3 burner phones. A contact lens case that actually contained a micro SD card with Yuki's decryption tools. Everything else she left behind. Before she left the bedsit, she triggered her dead man switch. The timer reset. 48 hours. If she didn't check in again by Saturday morning, an encrypted package would automatically transmit to 12 news organizations, 4 human rights groups, and Interpol. Insurance. The kind that only mattered if you were already dead. Now, let me tell you something about invisible travel. The world has 1 billion cameras. Airports, train stations, border crossings, every one of them feeding into systems designed to track movement, to turn a face into a data point. But there are cracks. There have always been cracks. Tilbury Docks. 11 p.m. The Thames estuary was black. Oil black. The kind of darkness that swallowed light whole. Container cranes stood like metal giants against the sky, their loading arms frozen mid-reach. Amara found the aircraft at the far end of the cargo terminal. A converted 737. White fuselage with no markings except a registration number, and the logo of a logistics company she'd never heard of. The pilot didn't ask her name. The loadmaster checked her credentials, nodded once, and pointed to a jump seat bolted to the wall between pallets of pharmaceutical supplies.
No questions. No eye contact. Professional invisibility.
The engine started at midnight. The aircraft taxied without announcement, without the usual choreography of commercial flight. No safety briefing, no cabin lights, just the vibration of turbines and the smell of jet fuel and cardboard. They stopped in Amsterdam for 3 hours. Amara didn't leave the aircraft. She sat in the dark, listening to forklifts moving cargo, watching her breath fog in the cold hold. Then Cairo. 2 hours on the ground. The heat seeped through the fuselage even at night. Desert heat. Ancient heat. A reminder that the world was older than anything happening in it. At 6:47 a.m. local time, the 737 touched down at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Cargo terminal. No immigration. No customs for crew. Amara stepped off the aircraft into Kenyan morning air. Nairobi. The air was different here. Thinner. Cleaner. The city sat at 500 feet, and you could feel the altitude in your lungs. The sky was enormous. Blue in a way that London would never be blue. She took a matatu from the cargo terminal to Westlands, packed in with commuters heading to work. Anonymous. Invisible. Just another body in a city of 4 million. She checked into a guest house on Mpaka Road. Paid cash. 3 nights. The room was small but clean. A ceiling fan turned slowly overhead, moving the warm air without cooling it. She set up her laptop, connected through 3 VPN layers, and sent Yuki a single word.
Arrived.
Nairobi. I've been there. More than once. And every time I go back, the city surprises me. It moves fast. It builds fast. It forgets nothing and forgives even less. If you're going to find a ghost in Nairobi, you'd better be willing to move at its speed. Finding a man who didn't want to be found. In a city of 4 million. With no recent photograph, no known address, no digital footprint, most people would call that impossible. Amara called it Friday. She started with what she knew. Samuel Githongo, investigative journalist, formerly with The Standard, one of Kenya's oldest newspapers. His beat had been corporate corruption, mining companies, environmental damage, the kinds of stories that made boardrooms uncomfortable. In 2019, he'd been investigating Meridian Mining, the same company whose pollution cover-up Amika had been exposing in Lagos, the same client who had hired Nexus. 2 journalists, 2 continents, same story, same target on their backs. Amika died. Githongo didn't. Amara went to the Standard's offices first, a modern building in the city center. She didn't go inside. Instead, she found a cafe across the street and watched the entrance. Journalists were creatures of habit. Even ones who had disappeared, they still gravitated toward the profession, toward the community, toward the people who understood. After an hour, she made a call, not to the Standard, to a source. A name Daniel had given her before she left Lagos. A freelance photographer named Grace Wanjiku, who had worked with Githongo before his disappearance. The phone rang 4 times. Who is this?
My name is Catherine. I'm looking for someone you used to work with. Samuel Githongo. The silence on the other end lasted 8 seconds. Amara counted.
Samuel is dead. Everyone knows that.
No. He's not. And I think you know that too.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Grace, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here because the same people who tried to kill Samuel also killed my brother. And I have evidence that can bring them down. But I need Samuel's help. Another silence. Longer this time.
Where are you?
Westlands. I can meet wherever you want.
There's a restaurant. Mama Olit's. Kilimani. Everyone goes there. It's crowded. It's public. Be there at 2 p.m. The line went dead. Mama Olik's was exactly what Grace described. A local institution. Packed with lunch crowds, office workers, families, university students, foreigners who'd been told this was the place for authentic Kenyan food. Amara arrived at 1:45. She ordered ugali and fish, sat in the corner with her back to the wall, watched the entrance. Grace Wanjiku arrived at 2:07. Late. Deliberate. She'd been watching the restaurant before entering, checking for surveillance. Professional. Githongo had good people around him. Grace was mid-40s, short hair, sharp eyes behind thin-framed glasses, a camera bag over her shoulder that she never put down, even when she sat. Catherine?
Thank you for coming.
I have conditions. I don't tell you where Samuel is. I don't confirm anything about Samuel. If I decide to help, I make contact on his behalf. He decides whether to meet you.
Fair.
Why should he trust you? Why should I trust you?
My real name is Amara Okafor. My brother was Emeka Okafor. He was a journalist in Lagos. He was investigating the same story as Samuel. Meridian Mining. Pollution. Cover-up. In August 2019, a company called Nexus Group executed something they called the Nairobi Protocol. 5 journalists targeted across East and West Africa. My brother was target number 4. He died in what was staged as a car accident. Samuel was one of the 5. But his file says, unresolved. He got away. I need to know how. And I need to know what he saw.
Grace's face didn't change. But her hands did. They tightened around the strap of her camera bag, a grip that said everything her expression wouldn't. You have proof of this?
I have the operational file. Names. Dates. Methods. All 5 targets listed. but the rest of the archive is encrypted. Biometric cipher. That's why I need Samuel.
Samuel doesn't have a biometric key.
No. But he might have information about the people who do. He was investigating Nexus before they came for him. If he got close enough to see the operation before it happened, he might know their people, their structure, how to get close to one of their executives.
Grace was quiet for a long time. The restaurant hummed around them. Swahili and English and Kikuyu mixing in the air. The clatter of plates. Someone laughing at a table near the window. Normal life. Ordinary life. The kind of life that existed parallel to the one Amara was living. I'll make a call. If he agrees, you'll hear from me tonight. If you don't hear from me, leave Nairobi and never contact me again.
Understood.
One more thing. Whatever happens with Samuel, you need to understand something. He's not the man he was. What happened to him broke something. He survived, but survival has a cost. Be gentle with him. There's a moment in every investigation, a moment where you stop chasing paper and start chasing people, where the data becomes a face, where the theory becomes a voice on the other end of a phone. That moment came at 9 p.m. The call came at 9 p.m., a number Amara didn't recognize, a voice she didn't know. Is this the woman looking for ghosts?
Samuel.
Don't use that name on an open line. Meet me tomorrow. Karen. There's a nursery on Langata Road. Sells flowers and garden supplies. Be there at 7 a.m. Come alone. Karen. A leafy suburb southwest of the city center, named after Karen Blixen. The kind of neighborhood where embassies hid behind high walls and bougainvillea spilled over iron gates. The nursery was real. A commercial garden center with rows of potted plants, bags of soil, and the earthy smell of things growing. Amara arrived at 6:45. She browsed the orchid section, pretended to read care instructions, watched. He appeared at 7:02, walking between rows of potted palms, moving slowly. The careful walk of someone who had learned to check every shadow before stepping into it. Samuel Githongo was 41, but he looked older, thinner than the photographs she'd found from 2019. His face had the drawn quality of someone who hadn't slept well in years. His eyes were alert but wounded, the eyes of a man who had seen something he couldn't unsee. He wore a faded green jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. His hands were steady, but his gaze moved constantly. Left, right, behind, always behind. Walk with me. They walked the rows of the nursery, past hibiscus and roses and jasmine, the scent of flowers mixing with the cool morning air. Grace says you have the Nairobi Protocol file.
I do.
Then you know what they did. What they tried to do to me.
Your file said unresolved. You escaped.
Barely. I had a source inside Meridian Mining, a junior accountant who grew a conscience. He warned me 3 days before the operation, told me there were men asking about me. Men with no names and no company affiliation. I didn't sleep that night. I packed a bag, gave my notes to Grace, told my editor I was going on assignment in Mombasa. Then I drove north instead, all the way to Nanyuki, a friend's farm, no connection to my name. The day I was supposed to die, I was watching Mount Kenya from a farmhouse porch, drinking tea, listening to birds. They came to my apartment in Nairobi. I know because a neighbor told Grace. 2 men, professional, in and out in 4 minutes. When they found it empty, they left. Githongo's voice was flat, the flatness of someone who had rehearsed this story in his own mind so many times it had lost its edges. The terror compressed into facts. Dates. Details. The emotional core scooped out and buried somewhere he didn't visit.
Samuel. The encrypted files I have. The ones from the Nexus server. They're locked with a biometric cipher. The key is embedded in the physical data of a Nexus executive. I need to clone their biometrics to decrypt the archive.
You want to get close to a Nexus person?
Yes.
That's suicide.
It's the only way. Without the cipher, I have a folder of operational details. Enough to name names. But not enough to prove the full scope. Not enough to bring down the network.
And with it?
Client lists, financial records, active operations, every disappearance documented, every client exposed. Enough to trigger Interpol investigations on 3 continents.
Githongo was quiet for a long moment. They had stopped walking. Standing among potted ferns, sunlight falling through shade cloth in patterns that moved like water. Before I disappeared, I got close. Closer than I should have. I had a source inside Nexus. Not high level. Administrative. A woman named Helen who processed expense reports. She told me about the regional structure. Nexus doesn't operate from London alone. They have regional directors in every continent. These directors carry the biometric authorization for their territory's data.
Regional directors.
5 of them. London, Singapore, Dubai, Sao Paulo, Nairobi.
There's a Nairobi director.
There was, but after my escape, they restructured. Pulled the East African operations under the Middle East Division. The regional director for Middle East and Africa is a man named Viktor Petrov. Russian-Israeli, based in Istanbul. He manages operations across 14 countries.
Istanbul.
He travels, but Istanbul is his base. And every 6 weeks, he attends a security conference. IDEF, International Defense Exhibition and Forum. The next one is in 9 days. 9 days. 9 days to get to Istanbul. 9 days to find a way into a defense conference crawling with military contractors, intelligence operatives, and the kind of security that made airports look casual. 9 days to get close enough to Viktor Petrov to clone his palm print, his retinal scan, or whatever biometric key Nexus had embedded in the cipher.
If I can get his biometric data, Yuki can build a clone. A prosthetic. Good enough to fool the reader on the encrypted archive.
If. That's a very big if.
I know.
There's something else. Something Helen told me before I had to run. Something I've been carrying for 3 years. Githongo's voice changed. Dropped lower. The flat recitation cracking open to reveal something underneath. Something he'd been holding. The Nairobi Protocol wasn't just about journalists. The 5 of us, we were the visible targets. The ones asking questions publicly. But there was a second list. A list of sources. People inside the companies that hired Nexus. Accountants. Junior executives. Assistants. The people who leaked documents to journalists like me and your brother. People who saw wrongdoing and tried to do the right thing. Helen said the second list was longer. 23 names. Sources who had provided information to the 5 journalists.
What happened to them?
She didn't know. But she said the second list had a different resolution code. Not terminate. Something called Deep Archive. Deep Archive. The words hung in the morning air between the flower pots and the shade cloth and the bird song. Deep Archive. A euphemism so clean, so corporate, it could mean anything. And that was the point. Euphemisms existed to make the unthinkable routine. I don't know what Deep Archive means, but I know this. 23 people who helped journalists tell the truth. 23 people who trusted someone. And every single one of them disappeared from public life within 6 months of the Nairobi Protocol. No deaths reported. No missing persons cases. They just stopped existing. Quit their jobs. Moved. Changed names. Or something worse.
That's in the encrypted archive. That's what I need to decrypt.
Then you need Viktor Petrov. And you need to be smarter, faster, and luckier than anyone who's ever tried to touch Nexus before. Because everyone who's tried is either dead or hiding in nurseries pretending to buy flowers. Deep Archive. 23 people. Sources who trusted journalists with the truth. And every single one of them vanished. That's not a coincidence. That's a system. A machine that eats trust and turns it into silence. But Amara had something Nexus didn't expect. She had a name. Viktor Petrov. And she had a plan. That afternoon, Amara sat in her guesthouse room with the curtains drawn and the ceiling fan spinning. She was on an encrypted call with Yuki. 3 layers of tunneling. Routed through Norway, South Korea, and Brazil before reaching the cramped apartment in Shibuya.
Viktor Petrov. Russian-Israeli. Regional Director for Middle East and Africa, based in Istanbul. He'll be at the IDEF security conference in 9 days.
I'm already running him. Give me a minute.
The sound of typing. Fast. Precise. The rhythm of someone who thought in code and spoke in keystrokes.
Got him. Viktor Petrov. 53. Born in St. Petersburg. Israeli citizenship obtained 2008. Officially listed as Director of Risk Assessment for a consulting firm called Aegis Partners, which is a Nexus subsidiary registered in Cyprus. He's careful. Minimal social media. No personal accounts. But his company profile shows him speaking at conferences. IDEF in Istanbul. Munich Security Conference. Milipol in Paris.
Can you get me into IDEF?
It's a trade show, not a military base. Media credentials are the easiest route. I can create a press identity. Freelance defense journalist. It'll get you a badge and floor access.
What about getting close enough for biometrics, palm print specifically?
That's the hard part. You'd need physical contact, a handshake, or access to something he's touched, a glass, a door handle, a conference badge. I can build you a collection device, a patch that fits in your palm. Conductive polymer. When you shake his hand, it captures a full palm geometry map. Resolution good enough to fool most biometric readers.
Most?
92% success rate on commercial readers. Nexus probably uses something better, but I can refine the clone once I have the raw data.
How do I get it to you?
You don't ship it. The data is too sensitive. I'll meet you.
In Istanbul?
I've been wanting to get out of this apartment for 3 years. Consider this my field trip.
Yuki Tanaka, 26 years old. A woman who had spent most of her adult life behind screens, in dark rooms, communicating through text and code. And she was willing to step into the open. To put herself in the same city as a Nexus executive. To risk everything on a handshake. Amara felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not hope exactly. Something adjacent to hope. The feeling of not being alone.
Yuki, thank you.
Don't thank me yet. Thank me when we crack the cipher and burn these people to the ground.
While Amara built her plan in a guest house in Nairobi, someone else was building something too. A trail. A map. A hunt. Because in this game, you're never just the hunter. You're always the hunted too. And the best predators don't announce themselves. They just get closer. Simon Cross worked in London. He had landed at City Airport 16 hours after Vance's recall order. No luggage. No rest. He went straight to the Meridian facility. The server room had been locked down. Forensic teams, Nexus internal, not police, were cataloging the breach. Every file accessed. Every byte transferred. Building a picture of what had been taken. Cross didn't care about the files. He cared about the how. He stood in front of David Okoro's locker. Personal effects. A photograph of a woman in her 60s. Okoro's mother. A prayer card. A letter from an immigration attorney.
She used him, found his weakness, and exploited it. She's trained, methodical, patient.
Cross reviewed the security footage, the cameras that hadn't been looped, the exterior angles that Yuki hadn't reached. A woman. Average height. Dark coat, face obscured. Moving with the confidence of someone who had done this before. He enhanced the images, ran them through recognition software. Nothing clean. She was good, but he was better. He made 3 phone calls. Contacts in the intelligence community. Former colleagues from MI6 who now worked the private sector, the gray zone between government and commerce, where the real power lived.
Amara Okafor, former GCHQ, left under unclear circumstances. Currently using the alias Catherine Obi. She was in London as of 48 hours ago. I need travel monitoring on every exit point. Airports. Trains. Ports. She'll avoid commercial routes, so focus on cargo. Private charters. Maritime. She's heading somewhere. My guess is she's already gone.
The first callback came within an hour. A cargo flight manifest from Tilbury Docks. A quality assurance inspector for a pharmaceutical company. Name, C. Obuasi. Destination, Nairobi via Amsterdam and Cairo. Cross allowed himself a thin smile.
Nairobi. Of course. The protocol. She found something in the archive that pointed her to Kenya. He composed a message to Eleanor Vance. Target has left the country. Destination, Nairobi. Pursuing. Recommend activation of regional assets.
The response came in 90 seconds.
Approved. Find her. End this. Whatever it takes. Simon Cross closed his laptop. Whatever it takes. 3 words that meant the same thing they always meant in this world. No limits. No boundaries. No mercy. He booked a flight to Nairobi. British Airways. Business class. Departing in 4 hours. Unlike Amara, he didn't need to hide.
I want to pause here for a moment. Because what happens next isn't about data. It isn't about ciphers or conferences or biometric cloning. What happens next is about memory. About the people we carry with us when everyone else has moved on. And about the cost of looking back when everything in you is screaming to keep moving forward. Amara's last night in Nairobi. She stood on the roof of the guest house. Mpaka Road stretched below, its streetlights casting orange pools on the pavement. Matatas rumbled past. Music drifted from a bar down the street. Someone was singing. Off-key. Beautiful. Nairobi at night. A city that felt alive in its bones. A city that pulsed with energy and noise and movement that never fully stopped. Not even at 2 a.m. She had a flight to Istanbul in 14 hours. Yuki would arrive the same day. The IDEF conference opened in 6 days. 6 days to become a credible defense journalist. 6 days to learn Viktor Petrov's schedule, his habits, his handshake patterns. 6 days to prepare for a single moment of contact that would either crack open the cipher or get her killed. Her phone buzzed. A message from Grace Wanjiku. He wanted you to have this. An attachment. A photograph. Old. Faded. 5 people standing outside a newspaper office. Smiling. Young. The kind of photograph taken before the world taught you not to trust it. 5 journalists. The Nairobi Protocol targets. Amara recognized 2 faces. Githongo, younger, fuller, his eyes bright with the arrogance of someone who thought the truth was armor enough. And Emeka, her brother, standing on the far right, his arm around the woman next to him, laughing at something off camera. She hadn't seen this photograph before. She hadn't known they'd met, hadn't known her brother, and Githongo had stood in the same frame, in the same sunlight, before the same enemy came for them both. She sat down on the roof. The concrete was still warm from the day's heat, and she let herself cry. Not for long, not dramatically, just a minute, a single minute of being a sister instead of a soldier. A minute of grief that wasn't fuel, but just grief. Clean, simple, human. Then she wiped her face, stood up, looked at the Nairobi skyline one more time. 21 days. 21 days until the signal activated again. Until her name appeared on coordinates. Until Nexus decided she had asked too many questions. Istanbul was waiting. Viktor Petrov was waiting. The Cipher was waiting. And Simon Cross was getting on a plane. She left Nairobi the way she arrived. Invisible. A different route this time. Overland to Mombasa. A ferry to Dar es Salaam. A flight from Julius Nyerere International to Istanbul Sabiha Gökçen. 3 countries. 2 passports. 0 digital trail. In her bag, the portable drive. The encrypted archive. 12 gigabytes of proof she couldn't read. In her mind, a plan. Viktor Petrov. A handshake. A polymer patch. A stolen identity printed in the lines of a stranger's palm. In her heart, a photograph. 5 journalists who believed the truth mattered. 4 of them dead. 1 hiding in a nursery in Karen. She was going to Istanbul. To a city of 15 million, where 2 civilizations met and the old world blurred into the new. A city of mosques and markets and bridges between continents. A city where a defense conference would bring the world's most dangerous people under one roof. And she was going to walk in and shake one of their hands. The cipher was waiting. The key was a person.